Welcome to Energy Matters, presented by New Jersey Policy Institute. I'm your host, Jeanette Hoffman. Thanks for joining us. We have a packed show today. Erik Anderson, Monmouth County Commissioner, is here to discuss how counties are helping residents deal with rising energy costs. Jesse Lee, Senior Advisor of Climate Power, breaks down the results of a new poll focused on energy affordability and campaign messaging. But first, Assemblyman Alex Sauickie discusses why Governor-elect Sherrill needs to chart a new course for New Jersey's Energy Master Plan. I'm here with Assemblyman Alex Sauickie, who represents New Jersey's 12th Legislative District. Assemblyman Sauickie, thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
No problem. So I want to talk about a recent op-ed you wrote for ONNJ.com, where you talk about Governor Murphy's Energy Master Plan and really describe it as a parting push rather than a serious long-term strategy. What concerns you most about the timing and the substance of this plan that just came out at the tail end of Governor Murphy's administration?
Yeah, well, let's first point out that it's the 2024 Energy Master Plan. It sort of underscores the seriousness that's been given to our energy policies in the state for the last 8 years. We haven't had a master plan put forth for almost 2 years, with it being overdue. It wasn't even put out until after the election. So we got it about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And, it underscores the same policies that we've been seeing for the last 8 years.
Yeah, and you argue that New Jersey families are now living with the consequences of the administration's no regrets energy approach. So from your perspective, what are the clear signs that ratepayers are suffering from this approach? And do you think the administration has regrets today?
Well, first off, the ratepayers are being reminded every month that these policies have failed. The energy bills that they're getting every month, whether it's in the winter for their heat or in the summer for their air conditioning, are at historic numbers. I mean, I've lived in this state my entire life. We've never seen, $400 gas bills, for example. Gas was always the cheap energy. So yeah, they're reminded every month. And given the governor's master plan that was just put out, I don't think he has any regrets. I think he thinks what he did over the last 8 years and the results were just fine. And he underscored that by putting out a master plan that reiterates the same ideological versus affordable practices that should have been put out 8 years ago.
Yeah, and as you said, the plan leans heavily on aggressive mandates and electrification timelines. And why do you believe those timelines are outpacing the infrastructure needed to support them? And what risks does this create for, once again, reliability and affordability?
Yeah, and I mean, to simplify it for all of your viewers and the ratepayers of the state, this is a supply and demand issue. We had plenty of supply for energy 8 years ago. In that time, under this governor, a nuclear power plant in Ocean County closed. 5 gas generating plants were closed. We lost the equivalent of now 30% of our energy generation. And at the same time, the governor was pushing electrification of everything. Cars, appliances, even warehouses had to be electric. And when you raise the demand on the electric side and you took out 30% of supply, the prices are going up. So it really was never considered an affordability thing. It was always an ideological thing where the governor was pushing wind and solar, which nobody's necessarily against. But when you took out the reliable energy like nuclear and natural gas and you didn't replace it with the equivalent of solar and wind, you're going to have the results that you're seeing right now. Pretty simple.
And to that point, when we talk about the decline in-state power generation and that greater reliance on imported electricity, how has that shift impacted grid stability? We know about the affordability because we're paying those higher prices, but talk to me about grid stability for New Jersey.
Yeah, for everybody out there, when we talk about the grid, it is a shared supply of energy across 13 states and including Washington, D.C. So we all share energy produced from every one of those states, and it's all consumed by every one of those states. We used to do our fair share where we contributed more energy than we even needed in the state. What's happening now is we are buying it out of state at a premium. ironically, from plants that are fossil fuel burning plants for the most part, which of course was completely what the governor was avoiding or trying to avoid. And with the demand being even higher with things like data centers for artificial intelligence, if you build a data center in Pennsylvania, that data center is taking energy from the grid,
Right.
and they're taking it as much as if they built it in the state of New Jersey. So as those continue to pop up, more energy is being consumed, and we're all fighting for it, and it's driving the price up.
Yeah, and so this is 8 years of administration that has promised equity and affordability. We heard that slogan, "Stronger and fairer." But as you point out, no family has seen lower utility bills in New Jersey. So
No.
talk to me about where state policymakers went wrong in assessing the real world cost impacts of these energy decisions, or did they just not even take cost into account?
Well, I think, again, the master plan we just saw is a repeat of the policies that have been going on for almost 8 years now. And if you look at the master plan, it does not take into account affordability. That's not even a factor.
Mhm.
The drivers are replacing evil fossil fuels in their minds, and driving towards renewables like wind and solar. The issue is nuclear. For example, one nuclear power plant is the equivalent of 1,800 windmills or
Wow.
10 million solar panels. And that's a fact. And the reliability of something like nuclear is like 96%, where wind and solar is in the 60 percentile because they're dependent on sun and wind to blow.
Right.
So you replace that reliable energy and that more powerful energy with a smaller footprint, with the thought that you were going to do the equivalent in 1,800 windmills or 10 million solar panels. It's just not going to work.
Yeah. And so let's talk about the future. So Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill comes into office. She's inheriting this energy master plan. What specific course corrections would you urge this administration to make early on to avoid a repeat of the last 8 years?
Yeah, well, first off, I would, if the new governor is really claiming affordability, there are some short-term things that we could do next week that
Mhm.
would lower people's energy bills. For example, we pay sales tax on electricity and natural gas. So every person who pays their bill is paying 6.625% in sales tax on energy or natural gas. The rumor is the new governor may raise that to 7%, so it's even worse. So eliminate sales tax on energy immediately. The other is you have a portion of ratepayers paying $15 a month or $180 a year to pay for smart meters or the opt out of smart meters. So seniors in particular don't want smart meters on their homes because they see it as an invasion of privacy. They're getting hit just as hard, though, because now they're paying $180 a year, which in some cases represents 30 or 40% of their bill because they may only have a $30 electric bill, right? So they're paying $15 a month because they opted out and not wanting a smart meter. There's legislation out there that I put out there that would eliminate that immediately. So there are some short-term things we can do, and then you also need to embrace nuclear and natural gas immediately, because this administration, the current administration, has said for the last 8 years, nuclear and natural gas are bad and evil. So who in their right mind who builds those type of plants are going to build them in the state of New Jersey unless they know they have a governing body that's going to support it?
Well, this was a great discussion. I think we could talk about this all day. Thanks so much for joining us, Assemblyman. We look forward to talking to you soon.
My pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Welcome back. I'm joined by Monmouth County Commissioner Erik Anderson, who was recently appointed by Governor-elect Sherrill to the Transition Team Local Government Advisory Group. Commissioner Anderson, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Jeanette.
So, Commissioner, energy bills are one of the top cost of living pressures for Monmouth County families right now. What are you hearing directly from your residents about how rising utility costs are affecting household budgets?
I mean, this is a real financial impact to the residents of our county. On average, electric bills are up 20% from last year. So this is really impacting the residents into making decisions. What can they spend money on? Every month they're getting their bills, they're seeing this increase, they sometimes have to make decisions between, groceries or, maybe going to the movies. And it's an issue that needs to be addressed as we roll into the new Cheryl administration.
So when energy costs rise, they don't just affect heating and cooling, they also ripple through groceries, healthcare, and housing. So how does energy affordability intersect with broader affordability challenges in Monmouth County?
Well, listen, when you have seniors that are on set budgets, when you have an increase of 20% in energy costs, like that's a real problem. When you have our nonprofits who are serving some of the most vulnerable in our community, that increased energy cost is driving into the bottom line on their ability to provide support services. These are real numbers. These are having real impacts. And there needs to be steps taken to make sure we rein in the energy costs to make the affordability issue more controlled in the county and throughout the state.
So I'm glad you talked about seniors and fixed income households because they are particularly vulnerable to energy price spikes. What concerns do you have about energy affordability for these residents, especially during extreme weather months? And what can county commissioners do about it?
Well, fortunately, we have a good collaborative involvement, and we've involved in the collaboration with JCP&L, who serves our residents providing energy. And we just announced recently at a commissioner meeting, Director Arnone noted that we are going to be going out into the community with JCP&L and talking about funding that is available for individuals who cannot meet the costs, the rising energy costs. On average, every year, millions of dollars are left on the table in aid to individuals in our community and throughout the state who cannot meet their energy costs. So this is going to be a great opportunity to get out into the community and show our residents what resources are out there to help them with these increased costs.
Those are some pretty important resources. Where can Monmouth County residents go to find more about that?
We are in the process of rolling this out. So hopefully in the beginning of the year, we're going to have information on where we're actually going to be going out into the community. I believe that if individuals go to JCP&L's website, they do have links to these programs to assist with energy costs.
Well, I'm sure they can hear about more of it from their commissioners. But let's talk about small businesses in Monmouth County. They're also feeling the squeeze from high energy bills. How do rising utility costs affect local job growth and business retention? And what are you hearing about it?
We're hearing very similar to the residents and the consumer use and the commercial use on the commercial side businesses. When your energy costs increase, it drives into the bottom line. So this is going to have a direct impact in our small businesses. We're already hearing this. And sometimes even the rate increases are higher for our businesses than they are for residential users. So we do need to get on a plan. We have to figure out how to address these increased costs. And what's really important is that we need to look into making sure we are generating the energy. Right now in our state, since 2017, we've lost 6 generating plants. And now it's just come down to a supply and demand issue. And there's a lot of demand and not enough supply.
That's a really good point. And, the cost issue has been a lot in this conversation, but it's not just about price, it's also about reliability. So how important is maintaining a strong, diverse energy infrastructure to keeping costs stable for residents?
It's very important. And you can have the supply, but you need to have a reliable infrastructure to supply that energy. And I know energy providers throughout the state and through the county are working on resiliency programs, which have been approved by the BPU to make sure energy can get to where it is needed and can be resilient when we have storm events.
And to that point, what risks do you see if an energy policy focuses too narrowly on one approach rather than following an all of the above strategy?
Well, I think we've just seen that when and it's laudable. The Murphy administration was looking to go to renewable energy, but while we were drawing down on the 6 suppliers in the state and kind of putting all our eggs in a basket in offshore wind, it didn't pan out. It's created a deficit. So it's important that we look for diverse energy sources, reliable, nuclear, fossil, batteries. We have to be diverse We have to recognize that not one size fits all. We have to recognize that there's a place for all these energy supplies in our system.
What would you say to families in Monmouth County who feel like they're doing everything right, but they still can't get ahead because of rising energy costs?
I mean, they're right. I mean, to have an increase in 20% in your family budget is just really difficult. And, you know, what we need to do is make sure, as the Sherrill administration comes online, that there are proactive steps taken to increase supply and make sure all steps possible are taken to drive down cost, to make it more affordable for residents, not only in Monmouth County, but throughout the state, to be able to afford everyday living.
Thanks for joining us, Commissioner. We appreciate your insights and we'll hope you'll come back again.
It was a pleasure, and make sure you come to the Monmouth County website to look for updates with regard to the energy programs that we're collaborating with JCP&L.
Hi, I'm here with Jesse Lee, Senior Advisor to Climate Power. Jesse, you recently commissioned a poll by Upswing Strategy and Research that shows that utility bills are now one of the top 2 financial pressures for voters, right behind the cost of groceries. From an energy policy standpoint, why are families feeling this so sharply? And what concrete steps should policymakers be taking right now to bring those costs down?
Yeah, and this poll was in New Jersey and Virginia, kind of just after those elections. But we've seen the same results mirrored in national polling recently too. And I think it's a kind of basic supply and demand story where you've got dramatically escalating energy demand from AI and data centers in particular, and at the same time you're seeing kind of a suppression of new energy supply through the kind of federal policies that undercut these incentives for new clean energy manufacturing and production. And those two things are just kind of creating a bigger mismatch where that's going to drive utility prices higher, and you're seeing it in almost every state in the country.
Do you think your poll is reflective of what other national polls are saying at the same time?
Yeah, that's what we've seen is you know in the rank of issues that people are concerned about in their kind of daily budgets. It's been energy prices have been climbing steadily. It's now kind of ahead of healthcare, just below groceries, which still are kind of in that top spot. I think people are seeing the impacts of tariffs there, and that's what's kind of driving those costs up. But energy costs are kind of going up with every new poll that we see.
I think it all comes down to affordability, clearly. Your data shows that in New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill, and in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, they really broke through with voters by centering energy affordability and offering clear plans to lower utility costs. So what did they do differently on energy policy messaging than their opponents? And what should other leaders and politicians, especially in D.C., with midterms coming up, learn from their approach?
Yeah, they both took their own unique but both very aggressive approaches to kind of taking control of the issue and saying that they are going to come in and do what it takes to fix it. In New Jersey, we saw both a very aggressive clean energy production um, commitment, just to, as Mike Sherrill put it, increase our arsenal of energy production, which I thought was actually a very effective way to talk about it. In Virginia, it was a very data center centric story where, Virginia is the data center capital of the world. And that was a big part of what's driving up their utility bills there. So Abigail Spanberger talked about data centers needed to pay their fair share of building out the utility infrastructure and making sure that those energy bills aren't driven up for everybody else. And so I think first and foremost, you have to kind of seize control, but they both also very much made this case that the federal policies suppressing energy production are a big problem. And, frankly, they started, what our poll found is that, Democrats in Congress start off with a much smaller margin on who's trusted on utility bills of just a few points. But after each of those gubernatorial candidates kind of made their case, going very aggressive on their own solutions and going very aggressive against those clean energy cuts, they expanded the margin from 3 points to about 12 points. So, I think they really laid out a pathway on how to talk about this and how to make this kind of, very clear cut supply and demand case to voters.
So, why do simple, solution focused energy messages stick so effectively? And how should other leaders communicate about these basically really complex energy policy without losing voters?
Yeah, that's right. And I think, voters are looking for tangible solutions, right? It's a simple message, but it's also very tangible. We are going to freeze these rates until we can, sort something out with the utility companies is very straightforward. And people understand that you're kind of standing up for them against these kind of big businesses. And, like I say, bringing more energy online, expanding our energy arsenal, that's very simple and straightforward. And, it was not as if the Republican candidates didn't engage on this issue. In fact, it was the number one issue that the Republican candidate in New Jersey spent money on was, a pretty badly distorted quote from Mikey Sherrill in particular, talking about, people need to adopt clean energy, uh, for the goodness of their heart, even though it's more expensive. And that was really the opposite of what she was saying. But they kind of both gave their best arguments on this. And the result was, Mikey Sherrill's very clear and very solutions oriented approach, easily won out.
As we know, voters are deeply anxious about their rising utility bills. Here in New Jersey, natural gas is the largest supplier of home heating. So how should policymakers balance this immediate need for affordable natural gas with long-term clean energy goals and, make sure that it's still realistic and how it could impact consumers' monthly bills in an affordable way?
Right. I think any policy does need to meet the current moment and realize that, we have catch up to do on on energy supply to make up the gap with demand. And so, you know, I don't think anybody right now is going to be talking about, banning natural gas or that kind of thing. The only kind of discussion of bans is really the one at the federal level on wind and solar. But I think the one thing about wind and solar batteries is, you know, they are kind of right on the cusp of getting over the hump on, um, coming to scale and getting cheaper and cheaper so that they can be afforded by everybody. And, once that happens, you're going to be able to have an almost kind of bottomless supply of that. And so you can really dramatically expand if the government kind of comes around to that position and says, we need more energy, however we can get it. The answer is going to be largely wind and solar and batteries because they're so scalable.
Well, that's really important, I think, to have a bottomless supply someday in the future. We hope that happens. Really appreciate your insights, Jesse. We hope to talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
That does it for today. I'm Jeanette Hoffman. Thanks for watching.